good look at the current state of the world today, we know that millions and millions of people are not getting enough to eat. There is growing evidence that climate change poses risks to food production in many parts of the world, especially for the small-scale farmers of sub-Saharan Africa. Many countries in Africa are becoming steadily drier. Others are getting wetter. Weather variability continues to bounce from one extreme to another. Too much or too little rain is a matter of life or death in Africa.
Agriculture is the basic activity for 80% of the population as source of incomes and also a source of employment. Meaning that if we want really to deal with poverty reduction in such a place, you have to develop agriculture. Because agriculture is not just an economic activity, it is more. It gives a meaning to the life of people there.
In 2020, the IPCC estimates that between 75 and 250 million people in Africa will be exposed to increasing water stresses on already precarious water resources as a result of climate change. And yields from agriculture could be reduced by up to 50%.
How were the rains this year? Was the rain enough?
No, the rain was not enough. We didn't have enough rain.
If there was more rain, would you have had more?
Yeah.
Agricultural production in many African countries and regions will likely be severely compromised by climate change and climate variability. There really is the potential of irreversible changes to the natural resource base on which agriculture depends.
Yet despite these dire predictions, farmers all across the continent are finding new and imaginative ways to feed themselves and their families. Combining local knowledge with innovative techniques, they are defining what it means to adapt to climate change. In the Samari region of Kenya, Excellent Development, a local partner of Mennonite Central Committee, together with Kenyan farmers, are finding ways to collect and conserve water for their communities. Tree planting helps to mitigate the effects of climate change. Trees provide shelter, food, fertilizer, and fodder, along with many other benefits for farmers. Farmers are also terracing their land to prevent soil erosion. Terracing also helps to prevent water loss in and around farmland.
We are involved in enabling these communities to produce enough food and to fight the climate change by terracing their land, and also enable them to construct sand dams along dry riverbeds so that when it rains they are able to get water for their livestock and their production of vegetables and other small-scale products.
Sand dams are simple concrete walls built down to the bedrock across dry riverbeds. As the water rapidly flows down the riverbed, sand is carried along with it and accumulates behind the dam. As the rains become shorter, more intense, and increasingly unreliable, the sand dams filter the water and then store up to 10 million liters of that water for future use. The water is stored right in the sand, safe from evaporation and runoff, and is ready for use whenever it is needed. The construction of sand dams has proliferated across the country, and now more than 140 communities are enjoying the benefits of clean, fresh water on a daily basis. Locally adapted solutions to climate change are diverse and complex in places like Kenya. They require the efforts of the entire community in order to be successful. On the other side of Africa, in northeastern Mali, USC Canada's Seeds of Survival program is supporting farmers as they preserve biodiversity in the Duensa region of the country. Farmers are working side by side with scientists to identify and store all the different seeds, both domestic and wild, being used on the farms. From this, local seed banks are being constructed to further develop and conserve local plant varieties. These seed banks are controlled and maintained by the community. Conserving and developing local plant varieties helps to promote and sustain long-term food security while relying on the time-tested, locally adapted knowledge of the people.
If you go and listen to the very poor people, you can find out the adequate strategies of coping systems, because this knowledge and practices have been developed through time, through generations, and it is not just a static practice or knowledge. These knowledge are dynamic and useful.
Traditional local crop varieties are nutritionally superior, better adapted for the local climate, and more affordable.
It's really a pleasure to look at the garden, to move around it. But it has been a very hard work for Cortina to improve the diversity in here, to improve the knowledge base for farming here and out in the field.
Protecting biodiversity promotes resiliency, ensuring that despite the shocks and unpredictability of climate change, farmers are able to cope.
Ah, yeah,